went to the event back, and I think it was September, and diverse was absolutely number one. And I feel, you know, that lack of qualified candidate is something that's coming through, that we may see a little bit more of, unfortunately, through 2023. So just really quickly on who I am. So head of product here at Oleeo, and my role really is to make sure we're investing in the product in the right way. So working really closely with organizations and really understanding the market and the challenges that are being faced to ensure that our solution continues to be relevant in supporting you to overcome those challenges. And our kind of ethos is really on helping you to be the best recruiters that you can be. So whatever we can do in terms of tools and initiatives to help you be successful is where our focus is as an organization. Just really quickly, I wouldn't be doing my organization justice if I didn't highlight some of the great customers that we work with. And I feel really proud when we show this slide, because it just helps to show the breadth of organization that we're able to work with and the different challenges that our solution can really flex and help organizations to overcome, you know, whether it's high volume, very specialist occupations, or a mixture of both, or even looking at from an RPO perspective, how can we help people with those schemes, even right through to early careers. So Natasha's just been touching on this, and that first poll I think is kind of answering that yes, there is a bit of a shift in the market, but I just feel, you know, in the last couple of years we've gone from the pre-COVID normal to the new normal to potentially the next normal, and I think we can all agree that the goalposts are moving almost on a daily basis, it feels, within the recruitment and talent acquisition market at the moment. You know, talent shortage, war on talent, the great resignation, and we've now got all of that mixed in with the cost of living crisis, the potential of a recession looming, and what does that mean, and how do we ensure that we're able to still get the right talent in the right roles. And when I'm looking at the market and listening to what organizations are saying, and actually what you're saying around qualified candidates starting to be a real challenge, that for me is where talent mobility and really understanding the talent you have within your workforce today, but equally potentially hidden in your ATS, you know, your silver medalists. Are they still in the system? Can you re-engage with them? Do they have the right skills potentially to fill these new roles that you've got coming to market? And inclusive recruitment is still going to be key. It's maybe not number one on your agenda. And actually, I'd like to kind of just dig into that a little bit. Please pop it in the chat. Where inclusive recruitment and your DE&I strategy is kind of in your priorities for 2023. You know, how do you ensure that you're getting the most diverse talent? But equally for me, that's about making sure you've got a really balanced talent pool coming into your organization. Okay, that's really interesting actually, Liz, to see that EDI is kind of dropping down, because actually the candidate shortage is that really pressing priority. And I think point one on this slide kind of says it all, you know, that speed of recruitment. How can you reduce your time to hire to make sure you're getting to the best talent faster than your competition, and getting those right people in those roles for your organization. Multi-generational hiring is becoming a bit more of a challenge, and kind of, you know, the expectations that different candidates have, you know, whether they're an early millennial like myself or whether they're a Gen Zer, you know, how do they want to interact with an organization? Is it on email? Is it via their laptop? Is it on a smartphone using WhatsApp? What way do they want to interact? And making sure that you've got the tools at hand to be able to converse with them in a way that is relevant to them and comfortable to them is going to be key in making sure you kind of break through the noise of the competition and stand out as the employer of choice for them. And then candidate engagement. This isn't a new a new area, but actually I think it needs to go beyond where it's been before. It's not just about getting them to the higher stage. How do you then keep the candidate engagement going all the way through to them beginning their onboarding on their first day? You know, there's been trends last year of quiet quitting and quick quitting. And that quick element, people coming in and leaving the business really quickly, where the engagement, the onboarding hasn't quite met their expectations. Ensuring that you get that engagement right all the way through, and then the onboarding beyond can really support them, can make a difference to that longevity and the length of service that you're getting from any of those new hires that you're bringing in. So, quick poll. What is your current time to hire?
Hopefully that's popped up on the screen for you.
It has, yes.
I won't leave it on too long because it's quite a quick response, I think, this one. So I'll end it in a second.
It is.
Yeah, role dependent, Tori said there, Hayley, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that can make such a difference as well. You know, if you're looking at a niche role, maybe a tech role, that can really impact when you're looking for, you know, very specific set of skills, maybe a particular code language.
Here's your results.
Okay, so it's quite interesting. I think at total jobs, it was around 6 weeks last year, generally, a survey they did. And then at the beginning of 2022, it had come down to around 4 weeks by the end of 2022. So that pace needed in recruitment is certainly being seen. But that's really interesting to see that actually there's quite a few in the months category. So the guys that are managing to do it in a few days, excellent. I'd be really interested to kind of understand the type of roles in the industry you're in, because that's a really impressive kind of turnaround in identifying and hiring those candidates. Brilliant. So I just wanted to talk around a particular case study, just to show kind of some of the initiatives that they took on to really help to reduce some of the challenges they were facing. So I'll set the scene a little bit for you. They were using manual processes. It was all paper-based. Where they did use technology, it was a SharePoint site. So nothing was really in one place, and they were really starting to kind of drown in their manual processes and the volume of paperwork, and that was leading to them kind of making mistakes. It was leading to them having inaccuracies in kind of their reporting and understanding how many candidates they had where in the hiring funnel. And equally, they had a real kind of data protection risk there. You know, paper was everywhere. There was nothing highly secure. And it was just leading to one big headache, if I'm honest. You know, they're around 2,000 hires a year, but their time to hire was 60 weeks. So from a candidate perspective, that journey was clunky and very, very long. So they wanted to really get under the skin and improve their efficiencies. And they were really kind of key on making sure for their different roles, whether it was a police officer, police staff, back of house admin, that they were able to identify the right skills needed and ask the right questions and get the right paperwork and the right tests done for the right role. But they also really needed to understand their data. Where were the candidates getting stuck? Where were their bottlenecks in their process? Was it at screening? Was it at booking interviews or physical tasks? What was happening, and how could they then start to unblock those bottlenecks? And they really wanted to improve that candidate experience. You know, we all know that there is a shortage of police officers amongst other public service roles, and they really wanted to improve that candidate experience. They wanted those young candidates who were coming forward and saying, yes, I wanted to be a police officer, to really be engaged and enjoy that experience and stay on the career path of becoming a police officer. So through automating their processes, a full end-to-end solution, they were able to reduce their time to hire from 60 weeks to just a matter of days. I think it's probably just, you know, around the 7 to 10 days that they've got it down to. These are brand new case studies, so we're just on that final, what is the exact days that they were on, but they were able to then understand their data by utilizing tools and streamlining processes and putting everything in the same place. They were able to really understand their bottlenecks and understand what else they needed to do to help them breaking down those barriers and getting those candidates in the roles they needed and very quickly. Yeah, and candidate experience. They feel valued. They understand where they are in that recruitment channel. They understand the next step for them is their physical test. They understand the next step is receiving a job offer, or, you know, when the next start date is. They tend to work in batches. So they've improved that whole experience holistically by making some small improvements, by bringing everything together and looking at how they can drive those efficiencies and understanding their data. So the next few slides, I'm just going to go through kind of the hiring funnel, really, and just look at some of the things that you can do as an organization to really kind of speed up that process. What can you do to make a difference with what you're doing today? What are those little changes? What are those consistencies that you can start to bring in? You know, I was looking at a report a few weeks ago, and it was talking about, you know, doing the little things consistently and right, you know, that formation of habit actually within recruitment starts to make a real difference. So how can you do that when you're looking at attracting and getting the best talent within your job adverts? How do you stand out from the crowd these days? You know, if you go on LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever platform that you choose to use, there's so many roles on there. How do you break through? How do you make it as easy as possible for your candidates to apply? So language is very key. And I'm going to talk about the types of language over the next couple of slides. But making sure that you're using language that is inclusive can really help to broaden your talent pool and encourage more people to apply for your roles. Remove the nice to haves. You know, you could easily put off somebody who has all of the, you know, required skills for a role, because some of the nice to haves maybe aren't in their comfort zone, or maybe they don't see themselves as excelling in that. So you could put them off. So really focus on what it is you need with it from that role to support the organization. Get your job adverts out there quickly. The admin of job advertising is very heavy, and if you're having to go onto multiple platforms, that can be a real challenge. So make sure you're looking at a tool and a system that can help you do that instantly. Create that job once and know and have the confidence that it's going out to the job boards that you want it to be on. And also utilize your talent banks that you have within your organization. I touched on this right at the beginning. Understanding that talent that might be hidden in your ATS is key to getting the right people in the role. They're not necessarily going to reapply for a role that's come through. They might not understand that they can actually match those skills that have happened. So by re-engaging with them and saying, hey, we spoke to you 6 months ago, we've got another great role, come and have a chat with us, can really help you to bring that talent into your organization. So just looking at the language use, making sure that you're using neutral language within your job adverts can really help to bring that broader talent for you. So we have research available on this. So if anybody would like to see the research on the use of different types of language, then please let us know, and we'll be more than happy to share that with you. But, you know, using masculine language. So I'm just trying to think. I can't see my notes, guys, so I'm just trying to think of some of the main, you know, game changing and leadership and a few things like that. Yeah, can really make a difference. Thanks, Michelle. But equally, using the gender neutral language, you know, interpersonal communication, those softer skills, that softer language actually appeals to all genders, whereas the masculine language can really put off females from applying for your roles. So make sure you're utilizing that and understanding how to get a balance in the language of your job. your job descriptions, and this can really help you to start to embed inclusive recruitment in everything that you're doing. Bring it into the heart of your recruitment processes. So it is you're recruiting inclusively as an output of the tools and your approach to bringing people into those roles. So save time and screen quickly. The next stage, hundreds of applications have come in. Sometimes it's thousands. I mean, I'm a hiring manager from time to time, and I might have 10 to 15 CVs to review. And, that's time consuming. It's my personal opinion starts to creep in, and those unconscious biases can start to creep in. And I could, I might not like the font that they've used on the CV as an example. That wouldn't be a conscious thing that I would be saying, oh, I don't like Comic Sans, so they're kind of out. But it's in there. So I would favor somebody that maybe has used a different font as a very kind of trivial example. But those kind of things can creep in and shift and shape the way that you're screening. So making sure that you're able to score candidates effectively on their skill set. What are those desired skills that you've identified in your job description, and how do they stand up to that? So make sure you've got a tool that can kind of cross-reference and bring them together, so that the people that are going through to the next stage to interview have the skills that are required to meet the role. It helps to reduce that bias as well. The candidates that are coming through to say, take these guys through to interview, that removal of bias and not liking colors or fonts, or maybe the way they've structured something, or it could be many other things. They've put a photo on there and they're not smiling. All those kind of things can really influence your decision on moving people through to the next stage of the hiring process. But make sure you're offering structured assessments as well, and they're automated so that everybody is going through the same experience, so they have the same opportunities and the same questions are being asked of them, so that you've got a really fair and balanced way of screening all the applicants that you've got coming through. And that way it really helps you to ensure that you've got the right and the best talent for that role coming through your hiring funnel. So just a little bit more on the assessment piece, making sure that you're able to fairly assess candidates, that everybody's having the same experience and everybody's got the same opportunities. You can really look at the language used. You can really look at how they've answered questions. There's some great tools out there. Oleeo has some great tools available that can really help you to answer questions and get a score based on quite long track questions. So drawing on past experience, demonstrate how you've achieved effective teamwork. Based on the answer given, the algorithm can work out a score for you, so that that what they've said and how they've approached it is a good answer and a good way of managing that area. But it rates those answers, so it's saving you time. It's saving you time so you can focus on doing what you do best and engaging with the candidates on a very personal and a very human level, and keeping that experience going and keeping that candidate engaged. It's really accurate, it's reliable, and it helps to boost that diversity and inclusive talent pool for you. So intelligent selection. Now I'm touching on another case study here of a major UK retailer, but actually I find the story quite compelling. So they were recruiting high volumes of staff. They were really spending a lot of time on screening. They were really kind of struggling and getting bogged down into their processes and the screening of CVs. It was taking them a huge amount of time, but actually they were finding they were recruiting the same kind of candidates all the time. Their diversity footprint, the way they were recruiting, the way they were screening, just wasn't really an ethos of what they were they were looking for. And actually they were finding they were having quite a high turnaround. They really needed to improve their candidate quality as well, so that they weren't having to do repeat hires over and over a course of the year. So that through utilising the tools that some of what I've just touched on, and really understanding the skill set of the applications that are coming through, regardless of all the other information that's in there that can bring in those unconscious biases, they were able to reduce the time they were spending by over 40%, which I think is an outstanding time saving. But importantly, they improved their candidates by 16%. Which is fantastic. That reduction in having to repeat hire alone saves a huge amount of time for the recruiters. And equally, you know, and this is a great stat, they increased their ethnic diversity in their interviewees by over 48%, which I think is staggering and shows that by utilising the tools that can take out some of those areas where there is unconscious bias, can really make a difference to the diverse workforce that organisations are bringing through. So at the interview stage, so, you know, how do we empower hiring managers? They may be ad hoc users of the system. So making sure it's easy for them to use, making sure they can go in and do the interview or review the interview and score based on the candidate's answers is really, really key. Making it seamless and easy to book an interview. How do you empower a candidate to just book an interview at a time that suits them? I think we've all been there where it's, oh, can you do this time? Oh, no, I can't do that time. You may have a 4 or 5 interaction to move forward. I think COVID has meant a lot of that has gone, but there are still some industries where it's, you know, it's disjointed, it's not part of the platform, the calendars aren't shared. It can be really difficult to get a time set for the candidate. And with that to and throwing, it can just throw out the candidate experience a little bit. But equally offering a choice to a candidate. Do they want a live interview like we are today? Or do they want to be pre-recorded? Not everybody is comfortable, even now, with being on video interviews and interacting in that very digital way. So giving them the choice of how to break through that nervousness and those barriers can really help to improve their candidate experience. So I'm just going to jump into another poll in a second, but just keep thinking about the interviewing process. I do think it should have loaded, but if it doesn't load, don't worry, I can ask the question at the end and get your opinions. There's always something that goes slightly awry on these things. So, there you go. Oh no, not quite yet. Sorry, Natasha.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was meant to or not.
No, you're fine. It's me. We've changed the poll. So sorry, guys. That's me. We changed the poll. So what I was going to say around interviews was just how do you do your video interviews today? Are they always live video interviews? Do you offer asynchronous so they can record their answers and then the hiring manager can go in and record? Do you offer a mixture of both? Or actually have you gone back to face-to-face predominantly? I'd just be really interested to see that in the chat. So apologies, Natasha. I forgot that we changed that out a few days ago.
No, that's fine. No problem.
So brilliant. Okay. And then kind of the last part of that hiring funnel, you know, you found the perfect candidate, which is brilliant. The hiring manager absolutely love them. So how do you secure them? I think right at the beginning, people were saying, you know, there's a skill shortage. They've got loads of offers. So how are you standing? How are you able to fare through? And I think there's a few things that you can do. Keeping it digital, keeping that process seamless, and moving at pace is really key. So making sure you can conduct your background checks, your right to work checks, and your reference checks online is very key. You know, that speeds up the process and means that you know that they've passed their right to work, etc., before they join the organisation, rather than having to do, you know, those manual face-to-face checks on day one. But equally, having some system in place that can do your job offers, that can do the contracts, that can do the terms of employment, to really help bring them through. But equally for me, it's more than that now. And I touched on this right at the beginning. How do you, from that point, so as a recruiter, you've done a great job. They're super excited. They've said the join and they've signed all the paperwork. They can't wait to get going. And then there's silence for 4 weeks, maybe 12 weeks. So how do you keep that going? How do you get the excitement? How do you send a communication that says, really excited for you to join? IT will be in contact with you about delivery of your equipment. Your equipment's due to be delivered today. On your first day, when you come in for induction, this is what you can expect. Meet the team emails, those kind of things. How can you keep them engaged and excited? Even right down to the night before they're due to join. I think we've all been there. The night before, you're sat there, it's a Sunday evening, new job starts tomorrow, it's looming. You've been super excited, but the nerves are now starting to kick in. Will they like me? Have I made the right choice? Just communications in that way that go, hi, cannot wait for you to join tomorrow. And feeling nervous, unsure about, where to go on your first day. Here's a few reminders. Here's what the plan's going to look like. Sending that communication out, reassuring them that actually they've made the right choice based on that experience they've had with you as a recruitment team. Just keeping those communications going right up until they join the organization will help them to feel excited, will help them to be more engaged and ready for their onboarding. And that can really make a difference. And if people know that, they bring in someone from a referral and they know, they really looked after me the whole way through and sent me reminders and made me feel really excited. And I was able to kind of, understand the team I was joining and a history of the organisation in a bit more detail, can make a real difference to those candidates right up and before they become those fresh new employees of your organisation. So just on digital checks, the rules changed in October, where the COVID regulations had shifted, so that ability to be able to, get someone to take a picture of their passport and then jump on a quick call and hold their passport, driver's license up to you to verify their identity. That became, you weren't able to do that anymore from the 1st of October. So the Home Office have employed and authorised around 12 independent suppliers, IDSPs. They're able to offer these digital right to work checks. We're delighted at Oleeo that we work with one of these IDSPs. So it means that from an organisation point of view, it's all done through the ATS. You can send out the link. They do their right to work check. It all comes back into the ATS. So it's all still being held securely in one place so that you're not having to go off and look at other parts or other products in order to drive things through and onboard those new hires. So just really kind of thinking that through. This is the poll. So thanks, Natasha. So just how are you doing your right to work checks, and were you aware that the rules had changed as of the 1st of October?
Should be on screen for you now.
It is. Thank you.
Again, I won't leave it too long because it's a fairly quick
Nice,
poll.
quick, easy one, yeah.
Another 10 seconds or so. Lovely. Okay. Hopefully you can see the results.
It's really interesting. Really interesting. So quite a few have gone back to in person and doing those manual checks. I think actually when we add those up, that's the most. And then a few people have got their dedicated providers in there, which is great. A small number using the ATS. And yeah, guys, if you haven't realised the rules have changed, I don't think you're the only ones. We've had a few of our customers kind of saying, "Oh my goodness, thank you for letting us know. We weren't aware it was changing. We were just going to carry on kind of how it was with the COVID rules." So yeah, be worth you looking and kind of investigating what you can do to make sure you're nice and compliant. Yeah, exactly, Natasha. Would be interested to know who are the dedicated providers. Absolutely. Okay, so Natasha touched on this a little bit, but just before I go into the conclusion, so who are we? Oleeo, we are an ATS provider. We're an end-to-end solution, so we're really proud of the ecosystem and the deep integrations that we're able to offer. The digital right to work check is just one example of how we do that. But actually, as an organization, we believe in making a solution and building a solution that actually can go to your ways of working. So it's a highly configurable solution that is really able to bend and flex to how you need it. You don't need to change your processes. Oleeo can take your processes, tune them up and bring out a really automated, efficient way of going through those processes. So taking those manual elements away from you. We also have intelligent automation. We really believe in the data and signposting and helping you at the point that you are in the hiring funnel to help and support you make those decisions. Diversity is something we're really passionate about, and I think you can probably see through a lot of what I've spoken about today, diversity is at the heart of how we embed that, removing that bias, making sure that you can hire in the most inclusive way and get the most diverse workforce for your organization is something that we're really, really passionate about. But everything that we want to do is to help you to be the best that you can be the best recruiter. At the moment, how do you find that hidden talent so that you've got the qualified candidates that you need? How do you reduce that time to hire so you're quicker than your competition? And equally, really understanding the talent that's available to you within your workforce as well. That's where our focus is, on helping you to achieve your goals and overcome those challenges you're finding in the market and the volatility that we're in. So I'm not going to go into these slides in too much detail, but again, I just really wanted to show you, if you've got manual processes, if you've got experiences or a system that's maybe quite difficult for your high touch hiring managers to utilize, and you need a system that can scale, maybe your onboarding and hiring this year is going to be significantly higher, and you're worried about the stress that you could pull through onto your system. Universal Hospitals Birmingham is is a great case study for us. Over 6,000 employees are using the ATS as part of for their hiring process. They're hiring over 6,000 employees a year, and they work an average of 24 days to bring people on board. So they were really looking for more automation, less admin. We all know how stretched the NHS is just generally, and those frontline hiring managers really don't have the time to be spending on heavy admin tasks and writing job descriptions and things like that. Great. They wanted to improve that candidate experience. We know there's a massive talent shortage in the NHS, so how do they encourage those occupations and those candidates to come to them? And making sure, again, that they understood where people were in that journey, understanding the data, understanding where people are, and making sure they can report, what is their drop-off, where are they losing those candidates? So they were able to reduce their time to hire by 29% in a really short space of time, so down to just 17 days, which when you're looking at highly qualified, the number of checks that they have to go through, all of the qualification verifications, all of those areas that they need to go through, it's a really impressive reduction in time. But they were able to really increase that engagement and that visibility. They knew when to communicate. They knew how to communicate. They had a system that could support them to do that. And the hiring managers were able to be more involved and get on with the task in hand and get those people into their roles to support them in the frontline services that they needed to provide. So I just wanted to share that. I feel it's a really pertinent one, and actually that flexibility that Oleeo has, that it can work with the NHS and utilising NHS jobs and integrate fully so that, you know, it works the way it needs to work for them without kind of adding in a complexity, I think is really key. Okay, so final couple of slides here. So how do you, in summary, how can we measure that quality? How can we help drive that quality through? You know, utilising the assessment tools and testing and intelligent assessment, really kind of understanding those skills that you're bringing into your organization and ensuring that they're able to kind of deliver on what you're looking for. I think there's a question that's come up around neurodiversity where in the chat, so I will touch on that when we get to the Q&As, because actually that's a really interesting area, and there's some new tools and there's a new partnership that we're looking at, and what they do around neurodiversity is actually really interesting. Making sure that your hiring managers can use the system, they're, you know, they like the candidates that are coming through, they feel the candidates are of high quality is really key. How are they progressing down the recruitment funnel? Again, knowing your data, knowing where people are sat. If there's a blocker, you know, have you got a single point of failure where a hiring manager is just not, you know, just not responding, or, you know, or actually their calendars just too full of meetings that they just can't get the interviews done? You know, what is that blocker, and how can you then remove that and make that process quicker and slicker for the candidates? You know, I think it's been touched on here as well. You know, is a quality of candidate judged by how much they're in demand, or is that actually an output of where we are in the market? Are all candidates in demand at the moment because there's such a shortage, or actually is having a number of offers and a number of organisations talking to them a way of measuring their quality? I think it's quite an interesting one, and there's a big debate, isn't there, at the moment around soft skills becoming power skills because of the digital world that we're living in. So how do we move that forward, and what will that mean in the future? And length of service, again, you know, back to the quick quitters and the quiet quitting and people coming in, you know, the boomerang employees that are maybe leaving, going somewhere else and coming back very quickly. That length of service and that the itchy feet and the want to change, you know, really understanding how you can improve and ensure that you get the right candidates for the longevity of the organization and avoid having to do those costly rehires is going to be really, really, really key moving forward. So how do we hire the best talent? Automate your processes as much as you can. Reduce that admin burden. Focus on what you guys are absolutely brilliant at, that human interaction, that really kind of getting to the nitty gritty and understanding kind of the personalities of those candidates. Making sure you've got the tools and the data to identify that right talent. By utilising that data, you can feel more confident in all of those hiring decisions that you're making, and believe that they're going to stay in, and actually have a confidence that you're not going to be revisiting it in 3 to 6 months maybe because it just wasn't quite right for them, or they weren't quite right for the organisation because actually some of the skills maybe weren't there that needed to be there in order to perform that role.